Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today, if you couldn't tell by the title of the video what we are doing a limited pack build at the request of one of my most fabulous watchers, listeners. I don't really know what the right term is, but I was thrilled to see this here comment asking if we could maybe do a base game Barbie build. And I was a little shocked at what I was going to work with in the base game because if you guys know me, you know I use that pink base game siding a lot. I have done a few pink builds in my day, but this in particular style of build is something I'm not super well versed in. As the shape kind of comes together, you guys will have a better idea of what we're going for, but I was essentially kind of going for this like Spanish Mediterranean style like vibe with the pink terracotta tiles on the roof and just like beautiful tiles throughout the whole house. And this house ended up really super big. As you can tell, we are in the base game world, kind of around the neighborhood that Don Lothario and the Caliente sisters live. And I just really like the overall vibe of the world, the lighting, and I like this particular neighborhood because there's still some greenery around, so it's not all dirt and just like womp womp. But I really had a good time trying to kind of push myself because you do kind of become forced to use certain items that maybe you aren't aware exist in the game when you do limit yourself to limited packs. And this isn't just limited packs, this is base game only. You guys absolutely know I love a playable build, and I love hearing what packs you guys have. This in particular individual asked for a base game only build, so I delivered as best I can as a gal who works a lot. So it did take me a few weeks, but she is here and she's beautiful. She actually was built relatively fast. It is the editing and the sitting down and talking to myself, but it felt fitting because I have my beautiful Girl Boss pink office, my beautiful Girl Boss pink martini glass. I even put this pink shirt on to really signify that I am one with my pink era. I have said it once and I'll say it again. I'm in my pink era. I just been loving it. I have also really been liking like this like burnt orange color, but I think that's the fall vibes, the autumnal vibes, if you will. And I have some really cute builds coming up with that color in mind if you want to make sure you subscribe to my channel. But also, if you would like to leave some comments letting me know kind of what kind of builds you want to use. I love playable builds. There was such a long time where I didn't have access to a lot of the packs. And as someone with limited computer space as well as free will, there are some packs I choose simply not to buy. And I feel like, without naming names or pointing fingers, Journey to Batu, I don't really need to explain myself, but I love something playable. So if you guys are like sitting there looking at your game, maybe you have like a current household, maybe you have a generation or legacy kind of challenge going in your own game, and you're like, I need a house with this. We could be like freaking house hunters. It could be so fun. So you could tell me what kind of packs and stuff that you guys have, what kind of house you're looking for, the style, the vibe, the career paths of your Sims. Just give me the lore, okay? Okay? It would be like, it would be so fun, and the knowledge that someone is actually going to get a playable build that is kind of geared towards their personal gameplay is like really exciting to me, because I used to only really download base game builds even when I had additional packs, because I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but I know like limited pack builds are more of a thing now and more of a discussion now, or maybe at the time I just didn't really think about it with my gallery access. But I used to only download the base game builds because it became just kind of easier than having the game replace random items that I didn't have with some like just the most bizarre stuff. There's this one wall accent piece, and it kind of looks like a window frame in my opinion. Like there's a base game window that looks just like it, except it has no glass and it's not a window. It's just like this arch and it's flat on the bottom. And for some reason, my Sims game used to use that to replace items all the time. What was it replacing? I don't know. I didn't have the packs, but I knew that that must not have been right, because sometimes like I know for a fact it used to be used to replace a lot of the ivy pieces that I didn't have in my game quite often. And so I downloaded this like beautiful stone build with like all this pretty ivy. Ivy, half the reason I wanted to download it most likely. And I just have this random window piece item scattered across the build. And I was like, okay, I would have rather you just left it out. I would have rather just not had it at all. But you know, what do I know? I will say I did struggle a bit with the overall house, but I found a really beautiful image on Pinterest. I'm going to see if I can find it again and hopefully insert it into the speed build so you guys can kind of see what I've been up to. When in doubt, when you are trying to build a little Sims build, Pinterest never fails me, especially when it comes to build styles I'm not necessarily familiar with. Which I can't even say that I'm not familiar with this particular build style. I am from South Florida originally, and if you've ever been in the South Florida area, you know homes like this are relatively common throughout like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Hialeah, the whole nine. Who is Snapchatting me right now? Forgot to put my phone on do not disturb. I got lots of people blowing my phone up. There's a lot of melodrama kind of happening around me, and I, for one, am just so excited that it doesn't really have anything to do with me. However, it is still kind of infringing on my peace. I have made the executive decision that I will not let it disturb my peace, but it is mildly tap dancing on it just a tad. So we just went ahead and ignored that, of course, and we are back in the Sims in the pinkness. You will see the shape itself is kind of coming together relatively easily, but I really struggled trying to come up with the color scheme because I knew this was like Barbie Mansion Dream House, so I'm thinking pink, 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 and I just couldn't really find anything I was super thrilled with. Then I stumbled across these pink kind of tiles, and I remember that base game update from a few months ago, and I was like, wait, I think I can work with this. So that really did take a while to come together. I also wanted to do this kind of like courtyard-esque area, which I just struggled with, and ultimately, like, I'm not gonna lie, even when I went back to do the tour for this particular build, looking back on it, I was like, damn, that was just not worth it. Like all the effort and work, and it made this like weird glitch with the tile. And I honestly live and learn, but I deeply regretted the amount of time and effort I put into it. I did, however, like these little like wall decal decoration things. I thought it came out pretty stinking cute. I think I did a pretty good job trying to match the overall image. And then honestly, I feel like you get more grace when you know you're just building with base game only. It did make it kind of difficult to have the vision come to life because I was thinking, I'm like, oh my god, I could do this from like the Love Struck pack, or what is it, the deluxe desert deluxe living pack, like stuff like that. I was like, that would look good, that would look good, that would look good. I was like, no, we must rein it in, base game only. And I go through like weird phases where I just do tons and tons and tons of limited pack builds, and then I go through phases where I'm like just going completely bum wild and just doing whatever I want. So I'm trying to make sure throughout spooky season I kind of do a little bit of a good job kind of sprinkling them in throughout. But you know, your suggestions always help. Plus, it takes away some of that mental load of deciding, what do I want to build today? Because I love to build, but I don't always love deciding on what to build. That's why I utilize Pinterest as much as possible, and I also like building for you guys. The landscaping for this build I thought came out really, really cute, which is so silly because like it really is just very basic, and in hindsight, the most profound thing I did was size up some base game cacti to a relatively cartoonish size, but I just thought it looked so stinking cute, and it really added to the overall vibe. I think it's because the kind of terracotta-esque fence that I use, as well as the tile on the roof, were not necessarily like a true Barbie pink. And I think that's one reason I struggled so much, kind of trying to get the exterior of this house to like line up with what I was envisioning. And I think the landscaping is when I finally looked at it, I was like, yep, I actually am happy with this, and ended up liking it overall. And I also really enjoyed all like the balcony pieces. I think total between the front porch and the back porch, there's 4 or 5 balconies. Obviously the ones on the front are like not real per se, but like they just came together really cute. You can see it's totally glitching out right here, and I had to delete it. It was a whole thing. I'm surprised I didn't cut this out. I think I honestly wanted you guys to feel my pain with me and just be like, hey, I struggled. I fought for this courtyard thing, but it ended up being a relatively fixable problem. There was one issue. If you look at the very front, the tile is gone that like leads to the sidewalk of the game. Yeah, that I could not fix. Even after I like got out of my game, reloaded in to take screenies, reloaded in to do my tour, I just couldn't figure it out. So unfortunately, there's no tile. There's no tile. No one's coming. No one's coming. And I am upset about it, but you know, live and learn. All in all, though, it is coming together rather nicely, and I can officially say that I talked about the build as much as humanly possible. But of course, is this build even really complete without a pool? Because I'm thinking like Barbie Mansion Dream House, and I think that every Barbie needs a pool. I was not a Barbie girl. I wasn't. I'm totally telling myself I was not a Barbie girl. My sister was. She even had like a lot of those collectible holiday Barbie dolls that they come out with every single year. And I think my mom started that when she was a little girl. I, however, did not get that. I'm a middle child. You know what I did have, though? A Polly Pocket. Am I sad I wasn't a Barbie girl? Not really. Not really. I actually think that maybe kind of controversial. I think Polly Pockets were the superior doll brand, and I used to have a Polly Pocket cruise ship that my Nana got me for Christmas, and it, to this day, might just be the greatest Christmas gift I had ever received in my life. I do, however, have some respect for Margot Robbie's Barbie the movie, and I am even more excited that that has led into a rabbit hole because I've heard that Margot Robbie's also producing a Sims movie. I'm just saying, I'm really excited. I have no idea what it could possibly be about. And I was on Reddit the other day, which is a lawless place. And the Redditors were kind of like conspirizing what they thought it might be about. I am so excited. I didn't comment. I'm really just a Reddit lurker because I'm afraid of the internet being that lawless. The other day, one of my friends, he was like, "You're not on X." And I was like, "No." That sounds like, even the name sounds aggressive. And I've heard it's a lawless place. I've never been on there, even when it was back in the olden days when it was like Twitter, right? That's the one that's like the same thing, or are those separate? Either way, I don't have either because I've heard they're lawless, and I'm afraid of really everything and everybody. I can't think of a possible reason. I like my little corner of the internet where I play sim builds and I just have a good time. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm having a great time in my corner of the internet. And I don't think X is a place for me, okay? I just like nice kindness. I like cooking videos and dog videos and, no one being mean and cyberbullying anyone in front of me, you know. And even some of the social medias I use, that's questionable. And that's also one reason that sometimes I don't read my YouTube comments because sometimes people are like, I remember I got a comment under a YouTube video one time and it was like, "I just love this girl's autism." Thanks. I think. I didn't even know what to say. I was like, okay. And I remember I told my mom about it like a few weeks later. She's like, "They said what?" And I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "Did it hurt your feelings?" I was like, "I've decided to not let it." But I did think about it. This was like a while ago. This was a minute ago. And I obviously still think about it. But I was like, I didn't even know if they were meaning to be mean. But I can tell you, I thought about it. We are moving on into the interior of this house, as you can see. And the house overall ended up being really big. I'm trying to think. I want to say it ends up being 5 bedrooms plus a like designated office off the dining space that we're doing right now. And like 3 to 4 bathrooms. I'm not 100% sure. One of the struggles I really faced when doing this particular build is because it's obviously Barbie. It's obviously supposed to be pink. But the style that I chose to do this house in, I thought just like looked better with some of like those darker wood tones, some brown, like natural like stone and things like that. I feel like it ended up blending relatively well, but it did really open my eyes to how lacking the base game is in like true pinks. It's got this like horrendous magenta color, and then it's got quite a few like baby pink items. Like, guys, have we ever heard of a pastel that's not behind a paywall? And I know that that might come out really bitchy, and I'm okay with that. I accept that. Because what I would have done to have just a few more like pink accented things, as well as a couple additional like nice photographs and artwork, I used some of these which came with a like base game drop to kind of make my own makeshift gallery wall. But just overall, I feel like the base game is mildly lacking, especially when you consider exactly how much DLC we've gotten in the last 18 months. The amount of specifically like build and buy items, because I'm obviously not really a cast girly, but the amount of build and buy items that we have gotten, I think the roadmaps, like we've consistently been getting somewhere between 3 and 5 kits. We've gotten numerous expansion packs. And don't get me wrong, I love the push out of content, but I kind of think that there should be like an unspoken hand in hand with receiving base game DLC along with paid DLC. And I do kind of appreciate the in-game live events for that. I know that they're essentially there to kind of draw players in. They're fun. It does suck. Like, if you don't get the stuff, you don't get the stuff. But there's a give and take with everything. I do, however, like that it does give an opportunity to add some permanent things into your base game. However, I just don't think it's enough. We got that really large base game update recently when we got all the windows and doors and that new kitchen set. And let me tell you, I was so excited. I want to say that was almost like a full calendar year ago. But according to the newest roadmap, if any of you have seen it, there should be some pretty epic things coming to the base game. I know a buzzword. I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm trying to think, like, what do I really want to see? Tell me in the comments down below what you would really want to see from a base game update. I know for me, a big thing is definitely going to be like those staple pieces in rooms, like sofas and beds. We got our new kitchen set. I live, laugh, love that. I'll take another kitchen set, but in all honesty, like a couple new beds. And we did get those beds for Pride Month, but even more beds because I just think that is the focal point in your Sims room, as well as couches. I think that would be really nice. I also think it could be like a good time for just some more clutter, more clutter. If they give us like 20 additional clutter pieces, that's a lot of clutter. That's probably about the size of a kit if I'm really thinking about it. But just more clutter, I would really, really appreciate that because as someone who tries to do a lot of base game builds and a lot of limited pack builds, maybe not a lot, like I don't know. I feel like I do them more often than I don't, that's for sure. But it would just be so nice to have some extra pieces to make base game builds not feel so empty. And I think that's a big thing with the clutter. Personally, I'm also just talking out the wazoo. They could give us an entire game full of stuff, and I know that some people still wouldn't be happy. I'm just asking for some curtains, some couches, and I have a business degree. I'm not a game developer gal. I just play. I don't really know how much work that would take. And I don't really care. I feel like if they can produce as many kits and as many game packs and expansion packs and stuff as they've been doing, they can certainly make me a couch or two. But maybe I'm being aggressive. I'm sorry. I need to calm down. We are moving through some of these bedrooms. They came together relatively quickly. And I tried to make this a true family home. So we have a beautiful primary bedroom as well as a bedroom for an infant or a toddler. You can just swap the bed out, but like a small child. Now we have what I consider to be like a teen's room, but that's only because the room across the hallway is for like a child. It can be for either or. And I want to say they're gender neutral because this is a Barbie house. All the rooms are pink. So, you know, they're just sheets. Anyone can sleep in them. But I thought it was really fun that this is something that I felt was extraordinarily playable for the average sim player. Assuming you don't want everything to be pink, but you really could run through and just use a swatch tool and change the swatches on some of the rooms if you don't like the pink. I love the pink. And obviously the person who requested this loves the pink, which slay queen. But all in all, I think it came out really, really playable. Because I had so many balconies, I also added in so many skill building items. Like obviously a couple of the fan favorites, there is definitely a chess table. I put a lot of telescopes in my builds. That's something I haven't outgrown yet. I'm not sorry at all. And then like some nice outdoor cooking things and patio furniture. And then of course like back garden items because these are like staples in your Sims house, especially when you're only doing the base game. I don't know that many people who have a chess table in real life, but I would like to. So shout out to you if you have one. But we have zoomed around this build quite a bit. And we're kind of coming to the end as I do the last few details around the outside. But we are going to jump in game and do a live tour so you guys can see all those beautiful, perfect, and pink little details. So I will see you guys in a minute. Okay, team, we have made it to the final tour of our beautiful base game only Barbie build. And I must say, I'm really happy with how she came out all in all. Again, this little courtyard area might not have been worth it. However, it does add a little pizzazz, if you will. I wanted it to feel like a dream house, of course. Let's do a little 360 tour. I really like all the pink tile I used. Of course, over here we have like our little garden area. I probably should have placed this on like an ever so slightly bigger lot, but I still think this is super playable. Actually the lot it's placed on in the world has a huge fishing pond right here, and then there's Don Lothario if you want to woohoo him, or if you want to go woohoo one of the Caliente sisters, because I, for one, have done both even simultaneously before. I'm always not the best person when I play Sims though. Going on into the house, this is like the kind of bird's eye view. You can see total we have this 1 bedroom downstairs, 2 bedrooms or 2 bathrooms. And then, so all in all, this is a 5 bedroom, 4 bedroom house with a designated office. You obviously could turn that into an additional bedroom if you wanted, but this felt very much like a generations home. Going on in, you have this little entryway, and I absolutely love this tile on the staircase. I use the matching tile in the bathrooms as well as the kitchen, but the detail on this I think is just absolutely gorgeous. I really, really like that kind of, I don't know if terracotta tile is like the right thing to call it, but I don't know. That's what my brain is coding it as. Then, of course, we have this little downstairs hall bathroom. Nothing super special. A lot of my bathrooms end up being the same, but this one actually is an outlier in comparison to the rest. I like the overall flow of this house. I sometimes struggle with that kind of symmetrical build style because it's like the stairs have to go in the middle, and then how do you frame everything else out? But because it's a more formal kind of overall family home feeling, I think it came out pretty good. But you come through here and you have this nice little dining area. I use this really beautiful, pretty pastel pink wallpaper, and I think that really helped tie everything together and make it feel Barbie, as well as this silly little chandelier from the base game. I saw this when I was doing some last minute details, and I was like, oh, yes. But it came out super cute. It's got this like nice little flower detail, for those of you wondering. I don't know why anyone would wonder that, but of course, here we have the living room. I tried to clutter it up as much as I could. This television is actually a frame TV that came with one of the reward events. If you don't have it, you can obviously just replace it with one of the other base game televisions. But then we have this nice office through the archway, which came together really cute. It did like a little faux gallery wall. As I said, you have an art easel. It's relatively small, but it's everything you need to girl boss, which if you're in the Barbie Dream House, I feel like you've got to be girl bossing, right? And then you come on over here, and I have this whole kitchen covered in tile from head to toe, but I actually really like the way it came out. And I also use some of the base game updates we got, like this pendant light, this new kitchen set, of course. But all in all, I like the way it came in. It's very formal. My one thing about this particular countertop set, and this is something about all countertop sets, is I hate that there's nothing on this side. I prefer the countertops in the game where there's actually the plain side on the side that you put your feet in, and then like cabinetry here. A lot of the time, that's why if you see my builds with my islands, I end up doing kind of a double layer of the cabinetry. It's just something I prefer. Then, of course, we have a little hall, bedroom, bath. My whole goal, which honestly I made this bedroom too small, and I could have like poofed it over, but I really like the overall flow of the layout. But I wanted this to be like a grandparent suite. Maybe grandma lives here or what. I guess it's just like a basic guest room. That's kind of how I ended up decorating it because I couldn't put a double bed in there. But that was the initial thought, that you have a formal guest bed and guest bath. And then you have the hall bath up here. Going on upstairs, you come through and it's a very long and skinny hallway. I still don't love that, but it was the best way to kind of make the overall layout kind of land the way I wanted it to. I added these really pretty columns. Unfortunately, these don't really match super well, but I wanted to go with something really big and over the top dramatic for the architecture. But you come through here, then you have our little baby room. Nothing super special. Like I said, I did kind of feel like I was lacking a lot of things while doing the base game, but I have some super high hopes for this upcoming base game update, and I can't wait to do an additional base game build. And you come in here, and again, another kind of faux wall or gallery wall. I was trying to go for this family portrait gallery wall kind of thing because I wanted this home to feel very generational. It might require a little play pretend, whatever, what in The Sims doesn't, but it's all in all relatively basic. And then, of course, we have an ensuite right here, but they have this large, beautiful balcony with these planter pots and, of course, a chess table. And I just can imagine sitting out here drinking my coffee. I really don't drink coffee in the morning. I'm more of like a 1 o'clock coffee drinker because nothing soothes the 9 to 5 grind like my afternoon anxiety attack after having way too much caffeine on an empty stomach. Then you go through this door over here. You have another balcony for some sunbathing. I imagine the teenage girl who lives in this house is out here sunbathing all the time and refuses to reapply sunscreen because why be, cooperative when you could be combative? Then, of course, we have another hall bath, which leads to this balcony. I didn't put anything on this balcony, honestly. I'm going to call myself out.
I probably forgot, but it's empty and I already uploaded it to the gallery, so it is there for you to take and decorate as you want. It is a weird flow, but I wanted there to be another hall bathroom upstairs, and this is the best way I could go about doing it. It is weird. You could always just extend the bathroom out more. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do if you don't like it. It is what it is. At least it's functional. But then, of course, we have the teens room. Through here, I really like this little shelf. You guys, if you remember that build or the video I made a while ago about how to kind of enhance your base game builds, cluttered shelves is like number 3 on my list of tips and tricks. So I really like the way that came out through and through. I do follow my own advice sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Then we have a child's room, and I centered the bed in here, which was definitely not the best use of space, but it feels very luxurious and like nice. And my one thing was I should have put the teens room here because this is like such a nice balcony. I don't know, guys. I wasn't thinking that ahead of things, I guess. And one thing I've been like wondering the whole time, and I think it's because I have white windows, is why I left these doors this color frame, and I can't decide if it's better like this. That might be better. I might have to re-upload a separate version to the gallery because this is definitely better. I was wondering the same thing about this particular archway. Yeah, I think that was a brief oversight from myself, and I might have to go through and fix it. But all in all, that is the interior. Then you come out here to the exterior. We have some nice greenery all over. I really like all the details of pink and the fun palm trees, as well as this lovely little round pool. And then, of course, we have kind of a formal garden area patio. Again, this lot could have definitely been on like a mildly bigger lot, but live and learn. It is overall very functional. It probably costs a fortune. It is 112,857 simoleons. So yeah, mildly pricey, but very downloadable. You just need a couple motherload sheets. But that is the overall build. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you hit this like button for me. You know, I love when you guys do that. Don't be afraid to let me know if you guys need a build. I'm here to help as much as I can. I do work a lot, but it does help to have a little bit of build inspo. And I like to see what average players like myself are kind of out there yearning for in both base game updates as well as the kind of packs they buy. I'm a family-oriented gameplay girl, so I typically like a lot of the family-oriented gameplay packs. If you're sitting there with only the base game build and Journey to Batu, I hate to tell you this, but I think you should maybe just unsubscribe. I won't be able to help you, and I'm okay with that. But that brings us to the end of the video. Make sure you subscribe to see some more as we have a lot coming up. Don't forget to be nice to each other, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.